Welcome to Aberon's Armorial. Today I'm going to be talking about an interesting subject which deals with heraldry but is kind of a separate system that runs alongside of that. And that is the system of the Highland clans and how they their insignias of rank and how they relate into heraldry. Now, probably the most common symbol of rank that you will ever see at a Highland Games or any sort of gathering where the clans are present is feathers on a bonnet. Here is mine to the side here. And as you can see, I display a crest and a single feather. Now, the feathers are the actual symbol of rank. They're usually a wing spike of a golden eagle, or they are dyed faux feathers. Most people use a faux feather like this. This is actually just a turkey feather that's been dyed. Most of them use that because in places in Canada, in the US, in Britain, in example, sometimes eagles and other birds are protected. So turkey is just the better way to go, dyed whatever imitation feather it is. And that's mainly because, if you're walking in and out of a tent and it snaps in half or it falls out of your cap or whatever reason, it's always good to have something that's easier replaceable. But armigers of any rank, and when I mean armigers of any rank, I mean anyone who has adopted or granted arms, they are allowed to display a badge. Now, my badge here, as you can see, is my own crest. It is the eagle rising, wings addorsed proper, with a saltire behind it and a sword in its dexter talons. Close up. This was done by a friend of mine, David Dittmer, who is a master silversmith here in the United States, and it's silver and red brass. Now, most clans people, though, are wondering, wait a minute, that doesn't look like anything like my badge. Well, most people are probably familiar with a badge like this, which is the chief's crest, and this goes for any clan, which is the chief's crest in a strap and buckle, like so, and it will have the motto around it usually as well. Now, this is what's called the Clansman's badge. The Clansman's badge is to be worn by any clansman of any Highland clan. And this goes for armigerous families as well nowadays. So the Clansman badge can be displayed by all, but they are worn with the understanding that it's not a symbol of rank. It is to show this is the chief's arm, this is the chief's crest, this is who I'm loyal to, that sort of thing. So individual clansmen wear this, and I often will wear this badge because it's the high chief of our clan, Clan Donald. And this shows his crest, which is the armed gauntlet, herring crosslet fichet gules with the crown underneath. And this I normally wear at larger functions and stuff like that, where I'm just there as a clansman. If I'm running the games or something like that, I will be wearing my bonnet with my own crest and badge. Now, clansmen are not entitled to display any feathers if they are not armigerous, with one exception. That being if they are a high commissioner of a clan or somebody that's been deputized by the chief for an event. Say there's a commemoration and the chief can't be there, so they deputize another clansman to speak on their behalf. They are allowed to wear a clansman's badge with 2 feathers behind it, as they are temporarily holding the office of a chieftain to speak on the chief's behalf. Now, I will get into defining the terms chief, chieftain, cadet, that sort of thing in a moment. But if you are a member of a clan, you should be wearing a clansman badge if you do not have arms. Now, like I said, any individual armiger, so gentlemen's esquires, knights, that sort of thing, unless you are otherwise told by your chief, you are a gentleman of a clan, meaning you get your single feather. Now, there are other groups that are often labeled by the Court of Lord Lion as principal and interdeterminate cadets. Now, how this works is, principal cadets are those who can prove a connection to the chiefly bloodline. Usually they are the descendant of a younger son of a former chief, or they are a cousin, something on a collateral branch, but can have a very good male line linkage to the chiefly line. Those are the principal cadets, and those are oftentimes chieftains. Now, this is the hard part, because we can define what a chief is, because a chief is only a chief if Lord Lion says that person is a chief. But anybody with arms is at least entitled to 1 feather, So the chieftain thing is where we get into gray matter. And even if you look in the Scottish Clan and Family Encyclopedia by George Wyeth Pleen, who is the current Carrick Pursuivant of Arms, I believe he was Procureur Fiscal to the Court of Lord Lyon when he wrote it, or he mentions some things in the Law of the Clan chapter that he wrote about the symbols of rank and such, and about how defining chieftains is really hard to do because there are so many things. And on top of that, they might not have to be related to the chiefly line, but a chief could one day go, hey, you've done a lot for your clan, you're a chieftain now, and elevate that person in status, which means now they're of that status, their children are also of that status. So there's some interesting caveats there as well. So if you have been told by your chief that you are a principal cadet, or your armorial of your clan has gone through the genealogy, gone through the arms, and said, oh, you're a principal cadet, that means you're a chieftain. You can wear your 2 feathers. Congratulations. Now, another caveat to that is this. People think, well, I'm an Armiger and I have a territorial designation. So that means I technically have a following, or I have land, or I have tenants. Does that make me a chieftain? Maybe. This is the weird thing, because really anyone, Armigerous or not, is allowed to have a territorial designation according to the Court of Lord Lyon. Because a territorial designation is no mark of rank, it literally just says, oh, I'm from so-and-so. Like, I am MacDonald of Aberone. My land is Aberone. It's a named estate. And that's good because I have another person in my town who is also a MacDonald, and we are completely unrelated. So it's one of those ideas to break it up. The requirements for territorial designation is that you must own at least 5 acres out with a burh, so outside of a city, basically, in the countryside. A lot of farmers use the territorial designations as well to differentiate their lands. But really, it has no titular dignity to it, but it's there. So people with armigers with territorial designations, not always chiefs, but sometimes. For example, there is MacDonald of Kingsborough. MacDonald of Kingsborough has land, has a territorial designation, and they are a principal cadet because they're off the chiefly line. And so there's that. There is also things like, let's see here, people of baronial tenure, people who are feudal barons. Now, feudal barons, for those of you who don't know, those are now titles that are, the feudal baronies are now detached from the physical land. So somebody can buy the title through the Court of Lord Lyon, but not have the land. Some people have both. Some people at Lyon Court have argued, and some other people in the heraldry community have said that, oh, if you have baronial tenure and also own the land, that makes you a chieftain. Because you command that area, you also will probably have tenants, or historically would have had tenants. And you would have been loyal to the chief in the area, or the chief of your clan. So, do feudal barons get to display 2 feathers? I would say so. I would consider them a chieftain. Now, chiefs. What defines a chief? Chiefs are only chiefs if they are considered a chief by the Lord Lyon King of Arms. Meaning they are also the holder of the undifferenced arms of that chiefly line. So if you ever look at the title of a Highland chief, it will always say their titles first, and then at the end, chief of the name and the arms of blank, whatever clan, insert name there. Which means that they command that clan now, they are in charge. There's also clan commanders, which are like chieftains, they're temporarily in place while an Armigerous family becomes a clan. The difference between an Armigerous family and a clan is whether or not they have a recognized chief by Lord Lyon. So, Clan Donald is a clan because we have a chief. Whereas Stuart, for example, and Bruce not so much. Stuart right now does not have a chief. McInnes, they do not have a chief right now. They have a commander. They're not a clan yet still. They're still an Armigerous family. The Curries are an interesting group because they're not really a clan. They are considered a learned kindred by the Court of Lord Lyon. But for all intents and purposes in the form of this, they are not recognized as a full clan yet because they do not have a chief. They have a commander who's been appointed by the Court of Lord Lyon and has been elected. But that person has not been made chief yet. The other big difference is, and you can't ever see it on these badges, on the Clansman badge, but if they are a full chief and it's embroidered or something like that, A full chief, their buckle on the strap and buckle is in gold, and any other person is silver. So really, if you're an armiger and you have a bannerman, or if you're a feudal baron and you have some people under you in the different positions of a baronial court, you can have badges made for them. But the buckle, if it was going to be in two color, the buckle would have to be silver, not gold if you were doing this in full color. Or if you were illustrating it, the buckle would need to be in silver, not gold, because that person's not a full chief. A good rule of thumb, though, is always don't display anything you're not entitled to. And if you do, you're always bringing questions upon yourself. Now, some people have asked about assumed arms versus granted arms. Well, here's the caveat to that. The court of Lord Lion does not deal in feathers. Many people have heard Lion say this. He said it in addresses in the U.S. and abroad. But Lion does not deal with feathers. He only gives advice on the traditions of them. So, that also begs the question, well, can only Scottish armigers wear feathers? What if you're in the diaspora, yada, yada, yada? My answer to that is no. Why? Because Lord Lion's authority begins and ends at the Scottish borders. So, in Scotland, you should only be wearing feathers if you have a grant of arms through the Court of Lord Lion. In Canada, you should only be wearing feathers if you have arms through the Canadian Heraldic Authority, etc. Ireland goes the same, and America. Well, America doesn't have a heraldic authority, so where do we go there? Well, all the law says is that they should be displaying feathers for their legitimate arms. And in America, assumed arms are technically legitimate arms, so long as they're heraldically correct. They don't indicate any extra markers of rank besides their plain gentleman's helm or esquire's helm, depending on what they're entitled to. Not showing supporters, that sort of thing, and make sure that they're registered somewhere. So, assumed arms being legitimate, yeah, Lion's not going to question it. If you're an American with assumed arms and you go to Scotland and you start showing feathers, you're probably going to get asked questions. And if Lion was there, he might tell you, no. I don't know. Our current Lion's a really nice guy, but, again, sole authority over there. So when you're traveling the international borders and stuff, that's when it gets messy. But in the U.S., if you have legally assumed arms, yeah, you can wear a feather. That's my suggestion. That's no way Ethan says it, so it's true across the board. This is from what I've read, that's what it says. And that's all it says according to George Way of Pleen, is so long as they are legitimate arms. That's the only rule. So, that's my little thing about the different ranking systems and feathers and how the heraldry of that mixes in with the clan system. I hope you have a great day, and if you have any other questions, always feel free to comment, and please remember to like and subscribe. Thank you.